Rissa! Do you like that intro? Hi, everybody. It's Barry Carter here. I'm with Dara O'Carney as always, and because he had nothing better to do, we are joined by his partner in crime, David Lappin from Unibet. How's it going, David?
It's going very well. How dare you suggest that I had nothing better to do on a Wednesday afternoon?
Sorry. So something a little bit different today. I have somewhat enjoyed my poker recently. I feel like I'm doing well against the fields that I participate in. I'm doing even quite well in €50 and even €100 PKOs at the moment, which is something I wasn't able to say, let's say, 6 months ago. However, at the weekend, I played the €250 SuperMoon PKO at Unibet, and it was the first time that I'd come across what I would call very, very good regulars. In some cases, it was players I recognised. In some cases, it was players that I felt were playing well, and in some cases, I think I probably imagined they were playing better than they were, and I levelled myself that way. So what I've done is I picked out a bunch of hands where I think I either got exploited by a better player or I, from a mental game perspective, allowed myself to make some sort of errors. A few of these are pretty embarrassing for me. I'm not going to lie, but this is how we learn. I'll just get started. Let's make this go fast as well.
It's also how you shill your old books that aren't including Dara O'Carney as well. I saw you get the word mental game in there a couple of times.
Yeah, that was very noticeable.
Yeah. I just need to get mental game of poker
Yeah.
2 in.
While Barry's setting that up, that's a common thing I find when guys I coach move up in stakes. They just see ghosts everywhere and they imagine they're getting exploited more than they are a lot of the time.
So first hand, it's very, very early because we've all got like 200 big blinds. I mean, before we start, do you recognize any of the screen names? I don't think that's actually Jonathan Little in the top left, but Peter Collar sounds like a person that I should know. Is that right? Anyone we know? PKO?
Yeah, I do recognize that name as well. I think Pavel I recognize also. What I would say is just very disappointing off the bat to see that Jonathan Little is obviously VPNing from America to play on Unibet, and we will definitely get the team to look into that one.
Well, let's reserve judgment as to how he actually plays, because if he plays well, it's probably not Jonathan.
In all seriousness, how would you rate the level of the field in the SuperMoon? Because you obviously play it, and you guys are obviously used to battling against good regs on other sites. So would I be right to be sheepish in this field?
I think it's a high. You are going to have a lot of really good regs in it. A lot of guys who maybe don't grind regularly on Unibet, top class regs from other sites, will come across for this one because they'll feel that it's worth their time. In my mind, it's kind of similar to if you go to an Irish poker tour and there's a 1K or a 2K high roller. All the best players are going to turn up for it, but then also some players who are not so strong, who just like playing in those fields and are well able to afford it, will also just like the challenge as well. I think what you won't see too much of is what I call mediocre regs. It tends to be polarized between very good regs and
gamblers and really good
fun players.
That makes perfect sense. I qualified for this for €10. I won one bounty in the end. You don't see it was an easy hand, but so my ROI was pretty good for this tournament, but still. So King Queen, Ace 7 Queen flop, 2 hearts. In a normal PK, in a PKO that I'm used to, like a 25 to a 50 PKO, I'm looking to get my money in on this flop. But let's see what happens. So yeah, straight out the bat. What the hell's that? What am I supposed to think about that? I don't see that normally. What's a half pot lead in a situation like this? What are you both thinking?
Immediately I'm thinking this isn't really a thing.
Exactly.
It's confusing to know what to do against it. But yeah, this really shouldn't be like, this should be a pure check for him.
Yeah.
We have essentially a bluff catcher. But he has a lot of high equity bluffs as well. Yeah, I'm gonna let David go first.
Yeah, like I think we're straight into street poker here in a way. Obviously, knockouts do present different sort of situations, but it's not really like at this stage in the tournament we can be overly thinking about knockouts because it is very hard to get 200 bigs in after all. Versus this unorthodox lead, I don't think we should be raising because I think that maybe sets up a situation where there's a lot of chips in a pot that we have a marginal hand in. So I think we only have the option to flat call and see what happens on the turn. And probably assigning him, you know, maybe a nutty range combined with a drawy range.
Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking. So at the lower stakes, when I see a lead like this, I'm just like, brilliant. He's got a bad showdown hand. He's got like ace-7 or something like that. But when someone leads out in a tournament like this, I'm thinking like he's got 9-10 of hearts or a set or some of the pretty good. Yeah, Jack 10 might be a sort of a draw where you know he's trying to build the pot himself. That's kind of what was in my head. So
Yeah.
I just called partially because
I think I would usually call, but I wouldn't completely rule out raising either. Like if I thought it was a lot of it was just like hands that want to get to the next street and don't want to put too much chips into the pot, I think we can pressurize that part of the range. I think like our hands far from the nuts as well. So if we raise and get 3-bet, I actually wouldn't mind too much just folding.
Yeah,
If it's king queen with the king of hearts, it'd be a different situation because we obviously wouldn't want to fold a hand that strong and at the same time wouldn't want to bloat it. But without the heart, I don't mind too much raise folding this hand because, you know, the guy would have to be super crazy brave to lead something, get raised, and then 3-bet something worse than king queen. And I also think another advantage of raising is that he will check the turn a lot if he does just call.
yes.
So I'd certainly give it some consideration, but I probably would end up just calling.
So we've obviously turned a hand where we are in the nutty end of things. I think he leads again. Let's have a look. Yeah, so he leads again. Obviously we can't play this cagey anymore. We've got a really, really good hand, and there's lots and lots of draws out there. So I think you'll probably agree this is a raise. What do you think of the bet size? And if you do?
Yeah, I think this is a raise for sure, and I think the sizing is fine as well. Yeah, like we've actually pulled ahead of some of his value. Like if he had ace queen on the flop that he's doing this with.
Yeah.
I do also think that, you know, while he certainly probably has made hands, I don't think they're super strong. Like I don't think he's necessarily going to lead sets on the flop because it's a disaster for him if we fold. So I'd weight him more towards like 2-pair, which is also now fallen behind, and ace queen. So yeah, I like the raise here, and it also charges his draws.
And I'm pretty certain I think he's going to fold now. Yeah, there we go. So that's the first one, but straight out of the bat, I was confused. So I was in.
Okay, I'd immediately have him tagged now as somebody who just does weird, bad stuff.
Yeah. So I don't quite remember what happens in this hand. I'll speed this up a bit. Okay, so this is pretty good so far. Standard so far.
I think
it's the river. It's the river I have the question on, but obviously you have an issue with the bet sizing, so let's go with that first.
Yeah, I'm not sure even we're supposed to bet the flop here.
Really? Go on. We've got an ace. How can you say that?
We have an ace, but like, yeah, I just don't think we're supposed to do too much betting out of position on this type of board, where like even when we have the ace, we kind of do better just checking and letting him bet.
But don't you think? No, go on, carry on.
Yeah.
But if not now, then when? With you know, we've got an ace.
Well, if it goes check, then we know we have the best hand, and then we start putting money in. But right now we don't. I mean, we almost certainly have the best hand, but there's nothing to stop him having jacks, threes, ace jack, ace three suited. Plus we have.
Well, he's probably not got jacks.
Like, are you going to bet here when you don't have the ace as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really surprised by this. No, like, well, first of all, we're in a PKO. I want to get the bounty. I cover this guy.
But this is
I need to
not
put him
really
in
this
net.
is not a hand that you're going to get worse hands to stack off with, is it?
Yeah.
Like what?
Again, I'm obviously letting the fact that I play smaller stakes on this site cloud my judgment a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing someone going nuts with like a worse ace or a flush draw here a lot of the time. Maybe not at 200 big blinds because I don't play that many tournaments where it's 200 big blinds to start with.
Yeah, like yeah. My suspicion would be if we get 200 big blinds in here, we're not good very often.
Right. Okay.
Uh, I also just think like we have because we're out of position, we have to check this a lot. Um,
But what are we betting with in a situation like this?
I
If
think
we're
I think it might almost be a range check. The only hand I can think I probably would always maybe bet a lot here is pocket threes on the flop because
right.
we block his ace X and his Jack X with that. Um,
Look,
but
okay. Then.
okay, I'll put it
Okay.
like this: if you bet there and he raises, how are you feeling?
Um. Again, I'm probably letting my smaller stakes mentality um play into us a little bit, but not terrible. Um. Not loving it, but
Okay, and if you don't have the ace, are you betting?
uh yeah, yeah, with lots of hands. If
You're
I
just
had
range
some,
betting basically.
not range betting, but I'd bet stuff that has equity or complete misses. And
Okay.
I'd bet sets. I'd bet two pairs. Um, I'd check the middle
So
portion
then
of
your
the.
checking is all like kings, queens, tens, nines, etc.
Yeah. That'd
Okay,
probably be how I play.
so anytime somebody's playing against you, they know you don't have the ace when you bet.
Mm. But I'd probably check aces.
Sorry?
I'd probably check something like aces as well, though.
Pocket
So,
aces. Okay, so we've got three combos of really nutty hands and then a load of crap when we check.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, but just to flip it around, what are you putting best booze on? Because best booze surely has got a pretty wide range. Yeah, again, I'm playing it's a PKO card quite heavily here. Um, like if this
I
was
think he has
a
a lot of, I think he does have a lot of ace X, but I think he can also have like a lot of pairs. Like he's not necessarily going to three bet tens, nines, eights.
but
Uh,
he
and you
called
kind
it,
of let
didn't
him off the hook when you bet. He can just fold those hands. Um, like even queens, he might not three bet 200 big blinds deep. Um, and you allow him to basically check back, play in position, realize equity. Sorry, you allow him to fold his weaker hands basically.
he? Right.
I actually don't think he has too many flush draws because the ace is on board, so the ace of spades. So
So
okay, he's got stuff like
it,
10 suited maybe.
it's obviously position is a large factor in why you're coming to these conclusions. Stack depth has to be the second main
Yeah,
motivator.
I'm
If this was
actually
if
I'm
this
actually
was
looking
70
at
big
GTO Wizard.
blinds,
Sorry,
would you be betting?
I'm looking at it in GTO Wizard now. Now they don't have 200 big blinds; they have 100 big blinds. But at 200 big blinds, sorry, 100 big blinds, GTO Wizard in this exact spot checks 93.5% of its range.
Fuck off. Really? Oh, wow. So I've got this. Okay, we've got some stuff to learn today. So, okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
this is a very commonly misplayed spot. You just have to do a lot of checking out of position period because
Right.
he's got a pretty strong range. He's flatted in position. He's not even on the button. Um, you don't have a massive range advantage here, and you're out of position. Being out of position is crucial. Like putting money into it in out of position with very little information about your opponent's range is a dicey proposition, and that's why the
Right.
solver will tend to check. So at 100 big blinds, it's only betting 5.5%, 6.5% of the time. At 200, I suspect it's almost a pure check.
If this
Because
if this was 70 big blinds, would you be playing this different? Like, would you be betting more and expecting him to have a more capped range? Because what I'm hearing here is that you don't think he has as capped a range as I think he has, right?
yeah, I'd definitely be doing more betting as it gets shallower.
Right. Okay.
Because at 40 big blinds, if we go down all the way down to 40, we are happy to get it in. But
Right.
like, I wouldn't be happy getting this in on the flop.
Right.
Um, so if I bet and he raises, I'm already not feeling great about it.
Right. Okay. Well, my actual question was, I felt after he called two streets of value, and because I've obviously got the trips with a good kicker, I my only question was really like I was checking to induce a bluff because I thought he had a flush draw and he had Jack 10. He had Jack 10 off, so obviously, like, he's not. He's
Yeah, again, I think
donk.
probably people over focus on flush draws. Anytime the ace is on board, the ace of that suit, that really cuts down the flush draws because
That's a
then
good
the
point.
ace
I like
six
that.
is gone. This is a very different board from ace jack three, where it's the jack and the three that are spades.
Mm. So I will say that if I check like you suggested, I wouldn't as much, but hey ho. Right, okay. So I this was a
Just,
um
just to get David in early on. David, what would you do on the flop there? Oh, sorry, David is actually coming back in.
was he falling asleep?
Okay, yeah, we lost David momentarily. I don't know if yeah, he's coming back in now. Yeah, maybe just go back to the spot and ask David for his opinion.
Which I would love to offer.
There we go.
Right? I'm just trying to make the point that I did have something better to do, Barry, obviously.
Yeah, he went off and he did something much better.
So did you hear that little spat between us there, David? Or
David, basically,
didn't
Barry thinks this
actually.
is a range bet, range check almost.
Barry thinks this is a range bet.
Yeah, close to, not quite, but close to. Barry checks like weak pairs, but bet pretty much bets anything that's better than that or has equity.
I probably bet this board, but I think it's okay to check as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a question. This is a point where there might be a difference between the theory and the practice. Like the theory is it's more or less a range check. The only hand the solver really wants to bet a lot is pocket threes, which unblocks all the top pairs, obviously. But against population, maybe that has too many weak aces. Then maybe betting functions better as an exploit. The only problem we have with that is that if we're betting all of our strong ace X and other stuff, and we're only checking our pairs, let's say like nines, tens, those types of hands, then they can pounce on our checks.
So
yeah, that makes sense. I like the analysis of that one.
So this next hand, there was a raise, a small raise, open and a small raise. I overcalled with pocket fours to set mine with 180 big blind deep or whatever pre-flop. You don't see that in this video. And the original opener called it as well. And then queen for two flop. And yeah, what do you do when you've flopped a set on a very, very favorable board in this spot? And you
well, the first thing I'd say is I would make a general rule about set mining in PKOs being a little bit more valuable, because obviously you if you get to stack somebody, you get that immediate bounty and that extra bounty put onto yours, which is worth something. Obviously, it's very hard to calculate you're going to win the tournament, not that frequently, but in the case that you do, it is worth something. So far, so good. I think I'd probably just call, because there'll still be quite a lot in there. I think we can definitely get stacks in. That guy only has 100 big blinds left, and the pot's going to be over 50 bigs by just flatting. And obviously, we could have the other guy do something as well. So I don't see any reason to raise at this point.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same boat, and actually just tied into the last hand. Like this is one of the ways we exploit people who bet too much out of position just because they have the betting lead. We can just flat behind, and then they're kind of in a like, now do I keep betting or do I check unless they have a super strong hand. There's a general rule which we talk about in the PKO book, which is that if you get in 10 to 12% of the effective stack on the flop, then you can get it in by the river without having to ever overbet. And he's already put in over 10% of his stack, and over 10% of the other stack as well. The one thing we don't want to do is to drive Tenari out. If Tenari is sitting there with, let's say, a king queen or a weakish, something like tens, if we raise, he can probably junk those hands. So we can draw him along as well. We would like a hand like Queen Jack to hang on and hit two pair of the turn.
Yeah, that's why I picked this hand out because I just got overexcited and raised. And it was purely monetary. I was like, this is a 60 quid bounty. I'm going to get a 60 quid bounty. Oh, he's gone. Which is
Yeah.
precisely what happened. And then the second hand was over. I was like, oh, that was such a dry flop. I could have
Yeah. Yeah,
called
it's
all.
like literally no flush draw. There's
No flush draws. No, yeah, exactly.
straight draws they can have. Yeah.
Okay, so I cover everyone. I don't know. So I've won a nice pot previously, so I cover everybody. So uh, under the gun +1 opens. Do you call with Jack 8 suited here? Again, it's purely because I cover everybody. Was my
Yeah, absolutely. We should be looking to play lots of pots.
yeah. I want to
Because
play
there's
every
all that
hand.
extra equity in there for us that isn't in there for them. So effectively, what you can do is if you quantify the value of the bounty and starting stacks, you can add that to all their stacks,
Yeah.
and that's what you're playing for.
So
That's interesting. I'll be honest, I wouldn't have myself flatted that spot. So I'm learning something if that's an adjustment you
it's
make when you're the chippy in this situation.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because
One of the sorry,
obviously
one
we
of the
can
big
call a really
things.
big squeeze, but we can call a small squeeze as well. Like when you have a lot of chips, you just get to play a lot of hands in PKOs because there's all that additional equity out there for you.
Yeah. We
And
learned this in
yeah,
we learned this in the PKO. But sometimes you play 100% of your range when you just I've got a stranglehold on the table like this.
yeah.
Um, so interesting flop for me. I've got a gut shot. I think I'm gonna stick around with it if I get bet. And obviously it's not the best draw out there, but do you call one there, Dara?
I do again because there's the additional equity. We have it's a decent hand to float too because like one very common leak a lot of weaker players have is they bet too much out of position and they see bet too much out of position, and then when they bet the flop and they get called, then they have to shut down on the turn. So you can actually win. You know, you can potentially get hands as strong as tens, jacks, queens to fold. Because they'll bet the flop and then they get called and they're like, oh, I guess he has the ace now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so obviously we've the turn's not too bad for us. We've now picked up an open ender.
Yeah.
He's bet again, and just to note, he was betting into two other people because Tenari was in the hand. I don't see any benefit to raise him because
No.
I think he's got a lot of ace X here. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yeah. Once he fires again, I'm putting him mostly on an ace.
And then I say it's the worst turn card possible because it completes the draw we don't have, and it gives us some showdown value. So I can't remember. Yeah, he checked. So yeah, I mean, he has precisely what I figured he'd have. Oh no, sorry, I didn't think he'd have a straight. I figured he'd have the ace. So I obviously got lucky not to put any more chips in there, but I don't think I had a question about the river. I think played the river fine, right? All things considered.
If you
I'll
hit,
be honest, I would have been tempted to bluff there, and
I'd be very tempted to just shove.
Yeah.
3x pot. I don't think he can't really have the flush draw, I don't think.
No.
Because again, the ace is on board.
Yeah.
And like if you hit your draw and he checked, what were you going to do? You know, if 5 rolled off, for example.
5. That's a good question. So the pot, yeah. So I would have. Well, I'm never. I mean, I'm never shoving. Although I want to. I guess I probably bet something like 75% pot.
Okay, my next question is why are you not shoving?
Because I'm not very creative. That's the actual I mean, I just think it's a mindset leak where I just think I'm going to get too many folds. But I know shoving
Okay,
is
you get too many folds. So if you get too many folds, why not shove this as a bluff?
yeah, exactly. No, you've hoisted by my own petard. No, you're absolutely right. It's I do shove in these spots in low stakes tournaments, but that's because I'm expecting to get called by pocket 4s, not because I'm targeting like 10x or something like that.
I think what's kind of interesting, Barry, is that as well, and it sort of adds to Dara's point, and it's sort of complementary to Dara's general point and the way he sort of manipulated you into realizing what he did, is if you don't bet really, really big here, and obviously once you have to go really, really big, then going all in's not far off really, really big, and you get the bounty, is if you don't do that, you're not really being compensated enough for the flop and turn calls.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, or even the pre-flop
yeah,
call.
in essence, the flop and turn calls are so that you can somehow represent a coordinated board, bluffing with an overbet, or make your unlikely to make hand and bluff, and value bet it, and hopefully he calls sometimes.
Yeah, the other thing is, like, right from the start of this hand, the justification for playing this hand is that the bounty's in play, but the bounty's not really in play if we're not going to shove the river when we hit our draw.
I'm hoping the other player does a lot of the legwork for me. Is the mental lead.
Yeah, but again, like, you know, when a very obvious draw gets there, he has to have something very strong to call off. So yeah, the bounty won't be in play. I mean, another possibility is, you know, we ruled out the raising on the flopper turn, but you know, maybe it has some merit, because then it starts to set the stacks up to the point where shoving the river won't be a massive 3x overpot shove.
Yeah.
And you might, you know, if you raise the flop and he's looking at ace 10, he might not fancy it. You're showing a lot of super strength. But the overarching point I want to make is that if you are justifying a loose call pre-flop because the bounties are in play, well, then the bounties have to be in play, just from the way you play it post-flop.
You are going to hate some of these hands that you're about to see. I'm pretty certain. Yeah, there we go. Next hand, King Queen. We have moved tables now. Top left, I think you might recognise the player. Not Bob the Knob, Ian Simpson in the top left. I cover everyone still. Do you flat here with King Queen off, or do you raise?
I think there's some merit to raising here.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
King Queen off always makes a good sort of bluff raise, because it's blocking the really strong hands. And yet when we get played back at, we kind of have rubbish, so we can throw it away. I think another reason for raising is it just sets up the stack. Like, we're going to even four-way now. We're going to the flop with effectively a stack to pot ratio of 12 or so against the important players. And that's going to be hard to get stacks in. And King Queen off is a type of hand where unless we flop a straight or something, we're not necessarily going to want to play for stacks anyway. So yeah, I think I'd prefer a 3-bet in this spot.
It's very, very quickly dawning on me that the size of the buy-in wasn't actually affecting me as much as the stack depth in the early stages, because I don't normally play 200 big blind stack tournaments. So I think I'm just trying to keep more people in at the moment by calling there. Do you raise on the flop as played?
Probably not. I mean, it's four-way as well, so I'm
that's my thinking. Yeah,
far less confident about my hand than I would be heads up. We have the king of spades as well, so like raising and getting 3-bet would be fairly horrible.
So the initial opener checked the turn. I'm at this point wanted to get some money in. You'd bet, right, if it was then checked here after?
So to jump in here, I quite like this bet from you, but I would do it with if I do not improve on the river, I would check back. Because literally I'd be only thinking, okay, King 10, King Jack are my only target hands, whereas he might have aces and ace king here, so there's almost just as many that he might take this line with multi-way. So while yes, you've taken control of the pot here, and you might well get a value bet out of him here, which is nice, it's kind of an advanced blocker in my mind, unimproved.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think our hand only gets one more bet in against worse hands. I don't think we can get two streets from anything worse, except maybe King Jack, but even that has to be kind of quite disbelieving.
Yeah.
So the turn has paired the 9. He's checked once again. So you're saying you check back at this point?
I think I do. I think I do. Like, obviously, Ace King, if we had flatted that pre, I would probably pursue value. King Jack, I would never consider pursuing value. King Queen, I think I'm still just checking back here. Those chips lost are more valuable than chips gained by a little bit as well. So yeah.
If you don't have the best hand here, and you lose, you're still going to be chip leader on the table, which is massive.
Well, that's a good point.
Which is massive in a PKO. But if you put in chips here and he has a better hand and you and you obviously lose, then you're going to fall at least behind him, and depending on your size, maybe behind one or two other players. And that makes a huge difference in a PKO. Being able to win every single bounty on the table is amazing in a PKO or in any type of bounty tournament. Late on in mystery bounties as well.
So again,
that's really brilliant awareness there, Dara. That's something that I wouldn't have considered in game to that level. It was very obvious to me. I would see that, but in this spot, I wouldn't have been seeing that. I would have been just playing my hand for its value, and to be honest, I would check back anyway with this hand. But with that extra caveat, that really tips it over.
Now, in my defense, I do always have that in the front of my mind with almost every PKO decision that I make. However, again, at the stakes I tend to play, I get called by a lot of shit here. So this is what happens.
I mean, he even has bluffs here. This is the annoying thing.
Yeah, you've opened the door for bluffs.
Yeah.
So what do you do in as played?
I mean, I think he knows exactly what your hand is.
Right.
I suspect.
Yeah, the nine pairing is really problematic for you because almost your best hand was pocket nines.
Yeah.
And now that's combinatorically reduced by 2/3.
You also have pocket kings, really. So yeah, you're kind of screwed here.
Yeah.
You have to fold, I think. But
yeah, I folded.
Yeah, brilliantly played hand by him. Now you're in a now you're even in a worse spot because you're covered by well, actually no, you are covered by 3 players now.
This is a really interesting hand, I think. So first of all, do you raise with ace-5 of diamonds there? We're very, very deep. I don't think I'm getting folds, so I think it loses some of its value as the archetypal bluffing hand. What do you agree with anything I've just said there?
I think it's a mix, to be honest. I think at this stack, if you're at 60 big blinds, I think probably solvers start bringing in quite a lot of maybe even a 50-50 amount of flats. I don't know what are we like 75.
Yeah, I just checked quickly.
More raises.
Yeah, I just checked quickly. It's still mostly a raise, but
I would have thought so.
I think in a PKO, I think it probably makes a better raise because again, like this is a kind of stack. This is the kind of a hand that can make the nuts quite a lot, and those type of hands want to inflate the pot early on to the point where we can get all in by the river without over betting.
See, what I was thinking was like we use ace-5 of diamonds as a bluff, and I just don't think people are folding anywhere near as much in a PKO. So I think it loses some of its value there. That's why I went for the flat instead.
It's almost not a bluff though, because you're ahead of a lot of button raising hands with ace-5 suit.
Yeah.
Like if you raise this hand, like he's not going to fold broadways. He's not going to fold worse aces. He's not going to fold suited connectors that are worse than this. It's not really a bluff against the button. It's a bluff against an early position raiser.
Right.
It's not really a bluff against the button. It's almost a value raise.
Yeah, so, and what's really important, I think, as well, is out of position, having the betting lead is very important with the hand that, sure, the ace-5 suited does flop better than a lot of hands, but at the same time, when you miss and you see bet, you get to knock him off his Jack 10, his Queen 10, his King 10 on certain board textures. And that's kind of, the objective of this one. Also, by 3-betting, you force him to maybe only flat some better aces, and then you get to steal it away by having the betting lead on the flop as well. So you're also, I suppose there's an argument to be made that you're taking initiative as well in that hand.
Yeah, like if he has a better ace and he just flats, the ace is less likely to flop because there's only 2 of them left, obviously, and you're more in the pot post flop. Whereas if he has the better ace and you just flat, you're very unlikely to hit the pot, to win the pot when you both miss.
Right. So as played, I presume you're going to agree that this is probably 100% check.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Do you call or do you raise in that spot? I mean, it's
What was the bet size?
it was 5, so it was it's just yeah, so it was pretty big size.
It
It
was
was
like
like
5
7.
to 7.
Okay, yeah. I think we can probably mix. Like there are quite a lot of benefits to raising in that our hand, if it's the best right now, because it's the 5, is very vulnerable. Like a lot of his hands would be just 2 overcards, and they have a decent amount of equity. So getting them to fold is a pretty good result. But we also do have crucially double backdoors.
Yeah,
So, but then on the other hand, we have a mid pair. So I think that's why we can go either way.
yeah.
If
Good.
if
Well,
if, if we had something like A6 of diamonds, I think I'd prefer. Yeah, okay. Then.
yeah. So the turn is the interesting thing. So what colored this decision was earlier that day I was looking at what makes for good turn overbet spots, and it was very much on a board texture like this. And I checked, and then he took his time, and then he slightly overbet.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking?
Uh,
I checked, and at the time I was thinking to myself, right, this I quite like turning my hand into a bluff here and check raising him, but then he overbet. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm not raising that bet because it's polarized.
Mm.
We're either ahead right now, um, or we have a flush draw.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think we can fold. It already feels a bit icky, but we are kind of toast against the value part of his range, but but we do have equity.
Mm.
Um,
But
but the fact that we're beating the other part of the range, I think, makes it a call. Because if we shove, like, he's not going to fold anything better.
Mhm.
He's not going to shove the top of his range. He's got a polar range, top pole and a bottom pole. So he's just going to shove the bottom pole, which probably has very little equity against our hand anyway. So we don't really benefit greatly from that. And all we're doing is we're sticking in the rest of the chips in a spot where we're drawing to a flush draw with 1 card to come. So yeah, I think we should just call here.
Are we not overcalling a little bit here though? It's like we're putting a lot of money in, a lot of our stack.
We have a decent amount of equity though, because we're beating all the bluffs and
What are the bluffs? Like 4s and 7s or something, and worse flush draws. I'm presuming.
um what are
He
his
could be
bluffs?
doing it with King Jack.
Yeah. I think he can just use stuff like 8-7 as well. Um
Yeah.
5-4.
Mhm.
Um
A worse flush draw.
he can use he has a lot of flush draws which he can use, yeah. Um yeah, I think he has yeah, and you have kind of capped yourself on the flop because
You could see I was thinking about shoving on him there, but
yeah.
yeah, you're gonna hate this. So
Yeah, I
because
mean,
then I was
some
thinking about
guys don't have
calling.
bluffs, but I think a good this guy seems like he's playing very well. I'm pretty sure he's
Yeah,
going to have bluffs, and we're beating all those bluffs. You just folded there.
yeah. I ended up
Yeah.
folding. Yeah, I thought he played it really well. I couldn't put him on many bluffs.
Yeah, like you're folding
So
away
But then you get paid when you hit, maybe.
you're folding away a ton of equity there because like you have the best hand right now at least some of the time.
Mhm.
Uh,
You have guaranteed 18% minimum.
guaranteed 18%. Like you have a nut draw, so and you only need 50%. Sorry, not even 50%. You only need 33%.
Yeah.
So you only
You
need
need
to
to
have the
get one
best
more bet.
and 50 or yeah, yeah. Uh, I guess the interesting question is what do we do if the flush comes in on the river?
Mhm.
So we get something like the 10 of diamonds. Um,
I think we shove it, Dara, and I think how we balance that out is other parts of our range, the ones that had the straight draws, use the diamonds and rep them as the bluff.
yeah, interesting. Um, I'd still be tempted to check. I think I let him bluff. And I especially given the point that a lot of his, well, I guess if he has a flush, he's not going to fold a flush anyway. But if we check to him and he has a flush, he's definitely sticking the money in. Yeah, I'd have to look at it in a solver to see what we're supposed to do. And again, that might be different from what we actually do in practice. But yeah, we folded away far too much equity on the turn there. And this is that shows the power of the overbet as well, that you can get people to fold some very strong hands.
Yeah. Because if he has something that's kind of like a king queen.
Yeah, I mean, this is once again proven a big leak of mine. Is just I'm just not ranging people that wide. I am really zoning in on what I see on the flop and what immediately connects with it.
Yeah.
And that works perfectly fine for me in the games that I have been playing, but evidently big leak to fix it.
On the side, I think we could actually shove here in a PKO and get called by a lot of worse hands, and that saves us the heartache of having to play out of position when we miss.
Oh God, you're gonna hate some of these hands. We're almost done. This was a stack depth decision. I was like, if I call this and lose, I've got, I'm toast. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we can really continue here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, this is why I probably just shove pre-flop and avoid this situation.
Yeah. So
the advantage of shoving pre-flop is 100% equity realization, and
yeah,
like ace king really benefits from that, particularly out of position.
So the big read here is Ian.
It's Ian, yeah, just shove.
Give him the thumbs up.
Get in his eye. Give him the thumbs up. Nice. Yeah, we can get caught. I was about to say we can get called by worse. So
yeah, I was also thinking this.
Yeah. To be honest, I think he's probably supposed to call ace 10 there because you're supposed to go pretty wide. Yeah. And he'll certainly call stuff like pocket sixes as well with the bounty in play.
Now you cover, Ian.
Yes. Yeah.
And
so, but first question then. Cover in. We've got the other player in the pot to my right who has not made any big errors or anything yet so far. We've got top pair, but it's not a particularly great top pair, especially against an unzigged opener. What are you thinking? Speed check.
We have leads here, but I'm not sure this is one of them.
That's what I was thinking. Like I was thinking like nines is a good lead. Well, any nine.
All our two pairs as well.
Two pairs is a good lead. Any over pair.
Stuff like 9-8 is a lead because with our draw we can get it in, but king 8 doesn't feel strong enough. I think it would really suck to bet fold this as well. So yeah, I think just check probably.
Okay, cool. So far, so good. So checked around. Two of spades, and this is what happens. Yeah, so the small blind leads quite big on the two of spades. I've got top pair. Not majorly concerned about Ian anymore at this point. What do you do on that?
Yeah, just calling seems the only option here where we're beating the bluffs and not the value probably. We don't really benefit. We don't gain a lot from raising, I don't think.
No. Well, you say you're not too worried about Ian at the moment. There is the possibility that he's checked back in overpair because it's the worst board ever for it. So he could still have the best hand, but he can never raise.
Yeah. So Ian gets out of the way now.
Ian has to persuade himself that his ace jack isn't good anymore.
Oh, this could be a tough one. I don't know what
Yeah,
to
if he bets
happen.
again, it's going to be super suspicious because I don't think he bets too many sixes on the turn. Oh
This is
God,
so gross.
this feels full of shit, I have to admit. I'm much more tempted to call here than in the previous spot.
Right.
All the 9x misses.
Yep.
Well,
He only started betting when the spade came in.
the 5x, the spades have missed. Yeah, I'm very tempted to call here.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Thank God. Thank
I
God.
think I
I'm
do
so
too.
glad you said that. This hand kept me up for all fucking night.
If he
I
has
mean,
pocket sevens, it's just like unlucky.
yeah, yeah. My thinking was that yeah, 9x bluffs. The spades definitely bluff, and he only started betting when the spades in. And
5x.
I just
You could even
go on.
it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just really, really, really could not put him on a 6.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big thing that was going through my head. Like he's not got a 6.
Yeah.
He can't have a 6.
He has it sometimes, but not often.
No,
Pretty
yeah, no,
flat.
absolutely, of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a
Oh,
6.
You can have yeah. Yeah, again, very few combos of that. So yeah. Assuming he doesn't have 7-6 off, there's really only 2 combos of 7-6. So yeah, that's pretty unlucky to run into one of those 2 combos.
I'm glad we ended on that one because obviously I was surprised at how bad I potentially played most of the hands that I picked out. But this one was the horror show hand that I was just like, I can't even include this in the video. I'm so embarrassed about overcalling here. He can't have a 6 ever, but then he does. So gone out on a little high. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah, he has value, but I think like he has so little value overall in this spot compared to all the potential bluffs he has, like all the 9x that's missed, all the 5x that's missed, all the spades that have missed. And the fact that the 6 comes on the river cuts down stuff like 7-6 even further. So yeah, that's just a creeper in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, 7-6 makes perfect sense.
Yeah, of course, but there's only 2 combos of that, as I said.
Yeah, exactly. He's never going to lead out with 7-6 on this particular board. I don't think. I mean, he's never. I don't think he'd ever lead out with not. No, it's just 6x, a6 or 5-6, 5-6 maybe on the turn. But okay, good. We end there. So yeah. So obviously, I really struggled in this particular session. Like all the hands that I didn't include in the video, they didn't go particularly well. And I felt like I struggled because of the buy-in, but I actually think it was the stack depth in hindsight.
Stacked up, yeah. It's hard. It's hard to play against better players deep stacked, and I think you have a few clearly definable leaks that you can go off and look at in GTO Wizard now. One of them is looking at playing out of position where you're the pre-flop raiser. You need to be doing far less c betting, and just protecting checking ranges better. That's a big one that jumps out, and then just not overrating top pair when you're 200 big blinds deep.
Yeah. And what I'd ask for you then is because the solver technology, GTO Wizard, for example, has not caught up to post-flop PKO spots yet. How valuable are these tools when analyzing PKO hands? Because at some point we want to deviate from what they do because we need to get the money in to win the bounty, right? But it seems to me that at very, very deep stack depths, GTO Wizard is probably more useful in PKOs than it would be if it was, say, 30 big blinds when, there's a lot of ways to get the money in.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think in my own study, when I'm looking at PKO spots where the stacks are relatively deep, what I'm kind of looking for is if there are low frequency plays that inflate the pot, then I'm taking them at a much higher frequency in PKOs where I'm trying to get the whole stack in more. But I think the most important adjustment is you want to be playing more hands pre-flop when the bounties are in play, but you want them to be the right types of hands. A hand like Jack 8 suited that can make the nuts, or particularly suited aces, suited wheel aces, or they make really good hands to get involved with deep stacked. Whereas hands like ace jack off, king queen off, they go down in value. Because unless you flop a straight or something, you want to have a very strong hand when you're up against a not quite a strong hand and stack somebody. And hands like suited aces, they can flush over flush people, or they can make flushes on boards where people have like two pairs or sets. So those types of hands go up way in value, but like king queen off, king jack off, all those types of hands go way down in value. Which is true in deep stack play in general, but effectively what the bounty does is it deepens the stacks even further when you're covering, because it means that you like when the way you adjust PKOs is when somebody's all in, you add those chips to the pot uh, of whatever the bounty is worth, and that improves your pot odds. But before they're all in, you add stack, because at that stage they're not in yet, but they could be in at some point. So it has the effect of deepening the stacks, and the general thing you do as the stacks deepen is certain hands go up in value, hands that can make nut draws or the nuts by the river, and other hands become much more troublesome, hands like king queen off, ace jack off.
To make a general point as well, Barry, which I'm keen to do, just because of the nature of this tournament and your presence in it, you mentioned there that you'd satellite in from a tenner, and I think a lot of players out there, that is sort of like the Sunday dream. They'll play some, low buy-in satellites with the hope of getting into the 200 quid event, or the 250 in this case, or whatever it may be. They'll also have that logic that you had, which is that, well, even if I took one bounty, I'd be up for the tournament. So, and then I'd be more than free rolling. So that is definitely something players do, and they'll end up in tougher fields like this one as a consequence. And my advice would complement what Dara just said, which is that, like, understanding in deeper stacked PKO terms the type of ranges to play. But I'd also say to those players specifically, not everyone in general who plays these games, but those guys, is simplify your decision making by being a little bit tighter and not doing anything too fancy. I think a lot of players, when they end up in tougher fields than they're used to, think they have to try something, think they have to do something a little bit outside the box or above the rim to almost compete against these like solid robotic machine like other players. Whereas in reality, their best thing they can do is, if anything, maybe simplify their own game by being a teeny weeny bit tighter, so that they only play hands that are much more clear cut for themselves. And to, also just then trust themselves to play their best poker game against these guys. It mightn't be as good as those guys, but as soon as they start doing silly stuff, their ROI goes down the toilet, to be honest.
I think that's great advice. And I do see that a lot with players, recreational players, when they're playing against players they perceive to be much better than the players they're normally playing, is they feel that they have to do something different. But that's actually the worst thing you could do, because then you're essentially being forced into a game which isn't your own game, against players who are going to be much better at that game. By far the best thing you can do is just stick to your own game and tighten up. So you're not playing the bottom of your range anymore. And which is not going to be very profitable anyway, and probably isn't profitable at all against better players. But also there are spots where it might be a good bluff spot, and don't be afraid to go for it either. Because if a very good pro or reg sees you playing tight, and then gets into a pot where you shove the river, I can guarantee you they'll overfold that spot. Because they'll be convinced that you have to have it.
Ironically, this is very left field thinking, but we all know that you shouldn't late register PKO tournaments, because you miss out on all the bounties that you never put yourself in a position to win. It almost feels like I might have been better off if I had late registered this a little bit, because with 200 big blind, not that many bounties would have been won. But if I came in at like level 4 or something like that, I would have been at a stack depth I was a little bit more comfortable at. Probably wouldn't have made as many big clangers. You agree with that little kind of
there's definitely some benefit to that. I mean, there's actually a debate going on Twitter at the moment about max later edging PKOs, and in our book we said that you shouldn't do it, but that's not to say that it can't be profitable. If you have if you're a very good reg with a very significant edge over people, you're paying an extra rake represented by the portion of the prize pool that's already been paid out. but you might be able to overcome that if you're playing against weaker players who are making bad adjustments, or over adjusting or under adjusting to bounties. So particularly, I personally, I still would go in very early, but I would just play the early stages very tight. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would stay away from trouble hands like king queen off, and ace jack off. But I'd still get involved with like suited aces and very strong hands as well. But just kind of change your range. And we say like in a PKO you should be looking to get involved in more hands, but against better players you can also just kind of stay out of trouble.
Yeah, it's also in a PKO it's kind of more about getting involved with more hands, but of a particular class of hands, the nutted hands that can make very, very strong things. So small pairs, suited connectors, high suited connectors, and not so much but things like ace 10 off, or small pairs multi-way actually don't play that well in PKOs. So you can tighten up.
Yeah, I took a small pair is much better set mining at 100 bigs than 200 bigs, because at 200 bigs you're going to get set over set. Like 15%. If you start up against a bigger pair, then 15% of the time you hit your set, they're going to hit a set as well, and you'll get set over set. 100 big blinds, you can just kind of shrug and say, well, it was a cooler. But at 200 big blinds, if you have a pretty dry board and you have a set and they're still sticking all the chips in, and you have bottom or second bottom set, there's a decent chance they have top set. So yeah, that's kind of the major takeaway. Just the shape of your range changes. Some hands go way up in value, suited aces. Hands like Jack 10 suited to that make the nuts straight. Anytime Jack 10 makes a straight, it's the nuts. But then other stuff, the worse suited cards, middling suited connectors, low pairs, and particularly the bad offsuit stuff, the stuff that can be dominated, like king queen off, ace jack off, ace 10 off. That all goes way down in value. So you can just kind of go in with the approach of like, okay, I'm just going to bin those hands early on until we get down to stack that I'm comfortable with. But I'll still keep playing my suited aces and my my Jack 10 suiteds.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I was genuinely dreading this session. I'm not going to lie to you, because I was very embarrassed for pretty much all the hands that I played. But I am actually really relieved, because the one hand that I kept me up that night, you would have played it exactly the same, which is the final hand. So
it's very easy to be results based in these spots and to feel like an idiot when you've called off with a pair against a house. But like you have just slammed into the top of the range. They're in a spot where you could justifiably be bluffing a lot of other stuff. So people often overfocus on bust out hands, and if they, in inverted commas, look bad because you called off with a pair, you can feel like an idiot. But as long as you have good rationale for calling off, lots of missed draws, not too much value, then you shouldn't really feel ashamed in those spots.
Excellent. Well, for the folks watching, like and subscribe, please, and drop a note in the comments about if you'd like to see more videos like this. And just all it leaves me to do is say thank you very much, David. Hope to see you again soon.
Delighted to be here.
We thought you were gone there for a minute. David's really trying to make the point that he has better stuff to do. He's running off between his bits to lead the busy life of an international man of mystery.
I was doing someone else's hand history on another computer over the other side of the room. That's what was happening.
You were programming a bot, be honest. Right. Good luck, everybody. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.